Hello, all, and welcome to episode 530. Holy shit. Of the Movie Bears
530.
podcast. Crazy. I know, but kind of awesome too. Welcome. We have a big show for you this week. We're going to be talking not one, but two horror films because let's be honest, horror films don't get enough love in general. Uh, and if you're watching the live video, Will, your hijinks are wonderful as always. We're going to be talking Final Destination Bloodlines. A lot of folks are talking about that one right now. It's like summer 2004 all over again with a Final Destination movie and I Know What You Did Last Summer coming. We're also going to be discussing Clown in a Cornfield, which was at South by Southwest Film a little while ago and is now out in theaters for folks to see. Really stoked to jump into these two discussions. But before we do, let me introduce my co-hosts. Jim Pugliafico is with us here as usual. How's it going, sweetheart?
It's going good. It's been, like I said on the last episode, although I'm fairly newly retired, it doesn't feel like I'm really retired yet, but I'm sure I'll settle into something like that seems like traditional, retirement stuff. But here we are. We're still seeing movies. We're still talking about movies, which we probably will be from now until forever. But I'm excited for these. I'm excited to talk about these two movies. I have some things to say about these movies.
Looking forward to hearing those thoughts for sure. Glad you could join us. We've also got William Lindis here. Hey, Will, how are you?
Hey, excited. It's always a good time when we get to talk about horror films. They they're all about sort of like tapping into something sort of raw, primal, something that makes us feel something, and that's what horror movies do. They make you feel scared, they make you feel icky, they make you feel tense, they make you feel whatever it is they happen to do, and that's why we come to movies. So I'm excited to talk about these movies and how they made us feel.
Indeed. I have a feeling that feelings are going to play a role in our feelings about feelings with these movies. We'll find out. In any event, there's a ton to talk about with these two films. Before we jump into those discussions, though, just a heads up, we're going to follow our normal format. We'll talk about each film spoiler free for probably, I don't know, 10 minutes or so. And then we'll open things up to spoilers. Feel free to use the time index if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, etc. So we lovingly call that digital tape delay. Bounce around as needed. Otherwise, if you're with us in the saddle for the live show, welcome. Glad to have you here that way too. But just keep an eye out for the audio cues and the ticker, and you'll know when to hop in and out. Jim, Will, with our spoiler plate warnings out of the way, are you ready to
Mm.
dive into our discussions?
Hey, you know what, friendo?
Yeah,
Let's do it.
let's hack it off. I said hack it off, not whack it off. There's a difference.
That's a very
Big difference.
You know what my
Sure.
favorite part of that, Jim, was no one asked you to clarify.
I know. I'm like,
I know.
okay.
Am I the only
Jim,
one that needs clarification on that?
Jim was just ready to whack it. We're all getting whacked
well,
tonight.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. All right.
Uh,
Well, here we go. We'll jump into our first discussion, and that is Final Destination Bloodlines. All right, Jim, do us a favor and set this one up for us. I think a lot of folks know what the Final Destination franchise is all about, but what the heck is Bloodlines and what were your initial thoughts? Is this worth checking out while it's in theaters, waiting for streaming, skipping? Where'd you come down?
Yeah, I mean this we've had this franchise around since the year 2000, the year 2000. And we
Oh,
had with the original Final Destination movie. And then we had one like every 2 or 3 years, right up until Final Destination 5, which is the one previous to this. Um, and that was 14 years ago. Wow, crazy, right? And now we've got Final Destination Bloodlines, or the sixth movie, not called Final Destination 6 for some reason. Naming conventions in movies are kind of a funny thing to.
Mhm.
You could do a podcast just on naming conventions alone, but this one has everyone. It's weird. It goes Final Destination, then 2, then 3, then a movie called not 4, but The Final Destination. Maybe they thought that was going to be the last movie. And then you had Final Destination 5, and of course this one, Bloodlines. So let me read the non-spoilery IMDb description for this movie. Plagued by a recurring violent nightmare, a college student returns home to find the one person who can break the cycle of death and save her family from the horrific fate that inevitably awaits them. This one, I have to admit up front, I am not the most film-studied person on this series. I have seen maybe the original and one or two of the other movies, but I'm not like following each one and the lore associated with the Final Destination verse. But this one going in, I'm like, okay, let's see what this one has to offer. And actually, I had a pretty good time with this movie. I think this movie delivers on the promise of giving us crazy death scenes, crazy tension leading up to the death scenes. Without spoiling anything, the name Bloodlines actually means something in this movie, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, maybe. But I kind of dug this movie. I thought some of the set pieces around some of these catastrophic deaths were really kind of cool. And a couple of them stood out to me. And look, this is not breaking any new ground for these movies. It's kind of, you're seeing the same thing, but I did enjoy this movie. I think it's a great summer popcorn flick. You want to see a horror movie, kind of like that makes your skin crawl, or like gives you that tension of like, oh my God, what's going to happen? I think this fills the bill. So I like this movie, and I would recommend that people see it.
All right. Well, thank you so much for those initial thoughts, Jim. Let's head on over to Will for the weather. No, I'm just kidding. Will, what did you think of Final Destination Bloodlines?
Cloudy with the chance of blood spray. I think the quick and easy summary of like how this film kind of lands is, if you are already in tune with what the Final Destination movies are and what they're doing and what they're setting out to do, I think you're going to have a pretty good time with this film. If that's not your type of film, I don't know if this is going to be the right film for you. This film is a Final Destination movie, and it really wears that on its sleeve and splattered across the wall. It really delivers on the idea of, death is everywhere, you can't escape it, and really coming up with these creative, almost like Rube Goldberg machine death devices that happen to the different characters. And each one of them is fun because you're watching through trying to predict how all of the different puzzle pieces come together. How is this going to result in this character dying? Or is there some sort of misdirect? Is something else happening? And that's core to this franchise. The other thing that's core to this franchise is every single one of them is related to one another, that they all kind of have like a lore through line without you having to really pay attention to that. Like, it's kind of there in the background. They reference a couple things, but like, whatever. Like, the characters in this movie are the characters in this movie, and we see them to and through the end. I especially like, as with all of these Final Destination films, they always start with kind of like a 15-20 minute like set piece, like the big kind of opening thing that sets off like what the film is going to be. A lot of times they spend like half of their budget and like a third of their shooting time on just this one sequence. And I think that was true here as well. I really like this opening set piece. We'll talk about it when we get to spoilers, what it is, but the opening is really solid. There are a couple of characters I just didn't give a shit about, but I think that's also sort of part and parcel with the Final Destination movies. This isn't a franchise where we're supposed to build deep, meaningful relationships with the characters. You know, they are stand-ins for the ghastly ways that they're about to die. So yeah, this is a fun, recommend-y popcorn movie, especially if this is your type of film. Like, if you're already predisposed to like Final Destination movies, you're gonna like this. Again, it's not setting the world on fire. It's not doing anything crazy or new or original, but what it delivers on its promise. And I had a fun time with it.
Awesome. Well, thank you for those thoughts as well. Yeah, if it did something new or crazy, it'd be like Final Destination Wedding or something. Have they done that yet? I don't think they have.
Yeah, Game of Thrones.
Before I give my quick thoughts, we have a couple comments in the live chat. Bobby Miller says, great to see the three bears. Hey, Bobby, good to see you too. Welcome.
Hey, Bobby.
Bobby. Thanks for commenting with us. Follow along.
And Ernie says about the Final Destination movies, the inventiveness of the kills are what brings me back to the Final Destination franchise. And Ernie, I'm right there with you. Going into this movie, I'm like, ooh, this is like the 5th or the 6th or the 20th film in this franchise. I forget which. But I see every damn one of these movies because that inventiveness. It always reminds me of the old Mousetrap board game where it's like the ball rolls on the track that hits the domino that then comes down and hits this other thing and makes the thing drop. Like it's just so clever how these kills sort of unfold, right? And I love the idea that like someone can sort of see death's pattern, right? And they're trying to diffuse it and defeat it, and death is like a force of nature or an antagonist itself. It's pretty cool setup, I think. I really appreciated this film. I think for some of the same reasons Jim and Will have already gone into, so we'll bank some time there. But I do want to give a shout out to Breck Basinger, Stargirl from the TV show. I'm embarrassed that I spent the whole movie trying to figure out where I knew her from. And then when I saw her name in the credits, it was like, oh shit, that's right. She was Stargirl. But Will, you talked about sort of that like fun setup piece, and that's kind of where Breck's part of the film is. And I thought she just did a phenomenal job with that. So that's not to say the rest of the film isn't fun. It definitely is. There are certain pieces of technology I'll never look at the same way again. And I can't wait to get into some of that with y'all. There's some crazy shit in the trailers, lawnmowers and, ice buckets and all the things. But I do appreciate, with this being, I think we confirmed this is the 6th movie, right, in the series at this point. They're keeping it fresh. Like, we're not rehashing the same thing over and over and over. There are some like homages and some references maybe to a couple previous kills and some things that happened in previous films. But I was talking to a friend of mine who was like, well, I didn't see any of the Final Destination movies, so I'm not going to go see that one. And I'm like, well, you don't have to, really. I mean, it references maybe a couple little things, but by and large, you just have to accept that like death has a plan and someone, is trying to foil it. Anyway, this was a lot of fun. Definitely worth its weight in concessions. Popcorn, soda, the whole fun bit. Definitely recommend seeing this in theaters. But there's also a lot coming out right now. We're about to get Lilo and Stitch. We're about to get the new Mission Impossible, Karate Kid Legends, Megan, Jurassic Park. Like, all the things are coming out. So if you don't catch it in theaters, this one's definitely a good streaming pick too, I'd say, for sure.
Another point that I think is worth flagging here, just in terms of something this film did, and again, this wasn't something it set out to do, but it's something that did sort of by the nature of it. There is one other sort of through point that comes through all of these films, and that's Tony Todd, horror icon.
Oh yeah,
is in all of these films. Well, this was also one. I think he had one small project after this, but this was sort of like the last major film that he shot before he died of stomach cancer last year, which is terribly tragic. They really allowed him to do a farewell to the fans.
Yeah.
And actually, I was reading, they actually let him improvise some of his lines in this,
wow.
so that he could kind of, the stuff that the character was saying was also stuff that the actor was saying. So I think there's another good reason to see this, and it is just sort of, it's important to sort of be able to like salute, icons within the genres we love.
Yeah,
Completely
it was
agree.
bittersweet seeing him in this film, and they had a little dedication to him at the very end credits, I think, which was awesome, and also let him be, as well as maybe let him improvise lines without giving away too much. He was kind of involved in a twist in the movie, which, I mean, this movie kind of tries to set a structure around what's happening with this Final Destination phenomenon, right? And I think that was one of my knocks against the film, or maybe it's my own limitation. I had a little bit of trouble following who was related to who and how in this film. It was a little bit, it's almost like you needed to keep mental notes of like, oh, she's the daughter of her that's the daughter of her. You know what I mean? And it was a little bit much for me in a movie where you just kind of want to focus on the kills. And one other thing I will say, Brad, as a big fan of Dexter, as a big fan of Dexter, Raya Kilstead played Darlene Campbell in this movie. She was Dr. Michelle Ross on Dexter.
Yep. Yes, indeed. Yep. Good eye.
Yeah, that was good to see her. Yeah.
Absolutely. And just going back to Tony Todd for a second, crazy Brad trivia, whatever. Tony Todd is the only actor who is one of my favorite Star Trek actors and favorite horror movie actors all at the same time. Like Star Trek and horror don't usually go together.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Tony Todd played Worf's Klingon brother on Next Generation, as well as old Jake Sisko in Deep Space Nine, which I think is his absolute best performance in anything ever. Pretty incredible. But really, really glad we got to see Tony Todd show up one more time in these films.
That's a good point. But don't forget Armand in if you count Buffy as horror. If you count Buffy as horror,
I suppose that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Except Buffy is not yet a beloved franchise for me.
No, it's not. It's not.
I'm trying it out for the first time.
Oh, we will have to talk. I am a Buffy stan, but that'll be.
You are.
Yeah.
We'll definitely have.
Well, that's a whole nother discussion.
Yeah. But all right. So real quick question from Ernie in the chat. Ernie says, and by the way, Ernie, really fucking good to see you again, friend. It's been a long time. But Ernie says, I've always wanted a historical Final Destination, like Final Destination Hindenburg. Or is that diminishing of those disasters?
Ooh.
Y'all have a thought?
So there's sort of two ways of looking at this, right? One of them is time and distance, right? The further back we go, the more we can capitalize on things. I mean, think about like we watched Titanic and watched people falling off of things and crashing against acres and stuff like that.
Plinko down the deck.
And that's based off of a historical thing. So I think if you go far enough back, I think there is a world where you can do that. The other thing that you can also do is you can do a parallel, right? So you can always do something that's maybe, going to that example, not necessarily the Hindenburg itself, but something Hindenburg-like, like so that you can put a little bit of distance between the actual victims while still referencing something that. So I think there's a couple of different ways. Now, where it would get challenging is if it was something that was recent enough to where we still understand, where the victims could still be impacted. I mean, obviously, like things that come to mind would be like, any recent bombings, 9/11, things like that.
Right.
I think those would be kind of like no goes for me. But yeah, I think if you go far enough back, I think there's a world for it.
Yeah. All right. Very cool. Well, how about we go ahead and get into spoiler territory on this one? Are y'all on board?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then in that case, spoilers for Final Destination Bloodlines are now officially fair game. I know that is so because I put our spoiler ticker at the bottom of the screen. If you're watching the live stream or the recording on YouTube, you can see that. Otherwise, listen to the sound of my voice warning you about spoilers. Will, you mentioned that that big Breck Basinger setup piece at the beginning. Do you want to take us back to that and maybe tell us a little bit more about why you loved that so much?
Absolutely. So what these set pieces do is they introduce us to the world of Final Destination in each film by showing us, one, the way death does its kind of weird creative things, two, the way people can sort of spot some of the clues, and three, the way when those two things clash, it sets off the propulsion for what the rest of the story is going to be as death tries to like catch up to those that, you know, escape death, right? So in this one, we got to see something that hit a bunch of different terrors, right? You know, we had a fear of heights as we're back in this sort of like Seattle Sky Dome type thing, sort of like
Sky
sort of
Needle.
like the
Yeah.
Space Needle, but you know, not, you know, it's called the Sky View and it closed down after this. But we got to see people. We got to see a lot of different things here. We got to see fires. We got to see people falling to their deaths. We got to see people like the glass at a high altitude breaking, which is something that is terrifying. If you've ever walked over like a glass sky bridge or something like that and thought like, what would happen if? We got to see pianos crashing into people. We got to see people catching on fire. And all of this stuff was fun and inventive and interesting. But most importantly, it set us up to learn the rules before we got to the rewind when everyone's lives got saved, right? And these are all big set pieces. All of the other ones, the rest of the film is filled with set pieces. Like, this is what these films are. It's basically you're stringing along from kill piece to kill piece. But most of the other ones are these little singular events, whereas this is these opening ones are always a massive disaster with multiple deaths and just sort of mass calamity. I respect the way these are shot because you get a good sense of place and a good sense of where we're at any given time within the scene. You understand why she can't go this way because this is happening, or if she goes that way, she might step on that, because they set all of it up so well. So I really like this scene. I think that, you know, by and large, the opening sequences are all the standouts of these films, maybe barring I didn't like the racetrack one from the 4 was maybe a little disappointing comparatively, but this one was solid and ranks up there with some of the best.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. Very, very, you know, like kinetic opening that just sets everything up really well. And you know, we get explosions, we get blood, we get gore, we get really fucking great musical performances. Jim, I think you especially enjoyed a callback to Animal House, right? Wasn't that movie?
Me.
Now wait a minute.
Oh yeah, there was the band that was playing at the Skyview. Was definitely a callback to Morris Day and the Nights from Animal House, because they were doing the same song. You know, you make me want to shout. You know, and it was very much in that style, which was really kind of cool. That's a really, I consider it kind of a deep cut, but people who love those movies, like, you know, classic comedy like Animal House, will get it. But in that scene toward the end of that set piece was probably my favorite kill of the movie. I'll just say the piano on that little asshole little kid. Just like I'm like, wow, they actually went there. Like I give the movie an extra half a star for dropping that piano on that kid. Because he was a little fucking asshole. So he got what he deserved.
Yeah, and it's so funny too, because like at the beginning of that set piece, we see that kid trying to fish coins out of the water, and the security guard's like, "Kid, that's bad luck. Don't steal money from the fountain." And what does he do? He fucking takes it inside and throws it and sets this whole thing off.
He didn't have a name.
Wasn't there a kill in one of the previous movies where like a penny was on a train track and then the train went by and flung the penny and it like sliced through someone's head? Or is that a different movie?
So in the first one, it wasn't a penny, but it was there was actually it was Sean William Scott's character. There was like a piece of metal that was on a train track, and the car almost hit another guy. Devon Sawa pulled him off, and then it hit it.
Gotcha.
And it kind of sliced him across the head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They love taking little pieces of metal in these movies and having them do big, giant, crazy
or glass.
Or glass.
Speaking of little pieces of metal, can I share a story with you?
Yeah.
So of course, you know, I've talked about kind of some of the health stuff that's going on. And one of the things that I have to do very regularly is go in for scans. So guess who had a CT scan yesterday?
You.
Me. And so as I'm in that CT, and granted, a CT
Oh,
scan is
no.
different than an MRI,
It
but at
is,
the same
but-
time, your mind immediately goes to like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm getting on this little thing, I'm getting ready to go into it. I just watched a movie where someone got basically bifurcated, folded in half like a fucking accordion in an MRI. So, you know, again, not the same, and also nothing's gonna happen, but at the same time, your brain makes these little leaps. You're just like, well, okay.
They do say not to wear metal, you know.
Yeah.
Am I sure I took that shit out of my out of my pocket?
Yeah.
Like,
well, I'll tell
do
you.
I have any fillings?
That was my favorite kill of the movie, and that guy was an asshole too, so like totally deserving. But when he walks in, you know, you see the nose ring and the earrings, and I'm like, please tell me he's got a Prince Albert. Please tell me he does. And sure enough, his pants tent out and he starts getting sucked into the thing. And I'm like, yes, here we go. That was amazing. It's really good. I didn't expect the wheelchair like through his back, though. That was the surprise part, which was really good.
Yeah, I do kind of like the way this movie also subverts expectations, right? In these kill scenes, there's a lot of subversion of expectations. You're like, oh, there's that piece of glass, and they're all drinking, right? You're thinking, oh, they're gonna someone's gonna swallow it, right? And they're gonna start puking up blood or whatever. But that doesn't happen, right? And you get a totally different direction that death takes in the film. And I actually think, and I need to go back and watch the trailer, and I wanted to do it before the show, but I didn't get a chance. I think the trailer sets up a kill in the trailer that does not happen in the movie. They totally subvert your trailer expectations in the film, which was like, that was interesting how they did that. I don't know if I've ever seen. Now, granted, there's been trailer scenes that have been completely not included in movies before, but I don't know if they've ever done one where they've actually changed the scene that drastically in order to have an effect on you. Like we're gonna build the tension for this because the audience will think they know what's happening or what's coming, and then it does not happen.
Absolutely.
And you're like, what the fuck?
There was the first trailer for this was just the sequence in the tattoo parlor, and it cuts off where the scene cuts off in the movie, which is like, oh, okay, the guy must have died in there. And I was actually, I'll be honest, maybe a little bored going into that scene just because like, oh, I've seen this full sequence play out in its entirety because that's what played out. And then I get through it. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I've already seen that. Whatever, it's fine. Let's move on. And then the guy walks up sipping like a drink in the next scene. And we're like, oh, he got out. What the fuck?
Right.
So that subversion of just like withholding that actually made the marketing for this, I feel, brilliant.
Well, there was another one that I was thinking of, Will, involving the same character where he steps in front of like a speeding truck on the street. Right. And gets totally. It's one of those like scenes in a trailer where the guy's like not paying attention and he's kind of looking the other way and he kind of walks into the street and as soon as it hits him, that's the cut to black in the trailer, right? That did not happen in the film. Like there were garbage trucks all over the street, but none of them actually hit him in the movie. So there was something going on with the makers of the movie trying to play tricks on the audience, which I think is kind of cool. I'm glad they did that because they had me on the edge of my seat waiting for like this. Yeah. I know this guy's going to get smashed by a truck, and then it just doesn't happen.
Nowadays, anytime, whether it's TV, movie, whatever, you see someone like start stepping toward the road and then you cut back for a wider shot. You're like, oh, this is where the bus crashes into him. Right.
Yeah. And it's because of this franchise, like that occurred in the first movie, and it was sort of like the one that was that, and then the log scene from the second movie, I think, are the two things that people most remember from this franchise, right?
I can't see a logging truck to this day without.
I cannot drive on the road with a logging truck without thinking of that movie. I don't know who can.
And they've come back to the well of kind of the wipe cut truck hitting someone a couple of times in this franchise because it's become so symbolic. It's like, it's like you have to give Jason at some point a machete just because it's a signature weapon, right? The death signature weapon is just a random truck.
Indeed. Well, this was definitely a fun film. I'm really glad we got a chance to see this in theaters on the big screen with really good sound. That was the other thing I just wanted to call out. The sound design for this film was fantastic. Especially the sound effects for like the glass falling into the ice and then the ice like being crunched on when you think the guy's chewing on the glass and he's really not. And even the sound is faking you out like constantly, which was really, really, really cool. So glad we got to see this, and not that it wouldn't be good at home, on a surround sound system, but it was pretty cool to hear that in theaters.
Yeah. If you want to kind of take some of this with you, like if you've watched this and you want to dig a little deeper into the Final Destination stuff, there was recently, so Variety sometimes does these interviews with people. And they did this interview with a guy who had worked on all 5 of the first films and this one in different roles, predominantly on like effects and stunt type stuff. And he goes through every single kill and how they did it with some behind the scenes footage and sort of like how much of it is practical, which a lot of it is practical or in camera stuff.
Yeah.
For all 5 of the first movies, it's a great, and the dude is so passionate and so interesting. So just look on YouTube for the Variety interview for Final Destination as sort of the preview for this. It's a lot of fun and super insightful.
Nice. Awesome. Thanks, Will. All right. Well, we have a whole nother movie to discuss. Jim, Will, are you ready to switch train tracks here and head into farm country?
You know what? Doesn't sound like a corny idea at all.
Oh,
that wasn't a good one. I already used Friendo. Used Friendo. Yeah.
You didn't disappoint. You're always clowning around.
Yeah, I got nothing.
I
already shot the I shot the Friendo bullet in the intro.
I shot the load.
I just shot mine, and it's time to leave. Let everyone else keep doing their thing. I got mine, so.
Fine. And quick correction: it's not Variety; it's Entertainment Weekly. Just in case you go down the rabbit hole. Okay, so yeah. Anyways, now we move on.
Jim's just going to cleverly edit it. Will, no, he's not really, because that would be way too much. But
nope.
Yeah,
I probably
you'll just be like, oh, there was that really cool interview from Variety, or whatever. All right. So we're going to go ahead and shift into our next discussion. We're going to be talking about Clown in a Cornfield. Same as with Final Destination Bloodlines. We're going to talk about the film spoiler-free for about 10 minutes or so. We'll give you our initial thoughts, and then we'll take the lid off the can of spoilers, let those out into the world. Do what you got to do with time index or live discussion. Protect yourself. But here we go. Clown in a Cornfield review is happening right now. All right. So, Will, you are such a perfect person to set this one up because you got to see Clown in a Cornfield at South by Southwest Film a couple of months ago. Would love for you to just set this one up for folks who may not be familiar. This was kind of a smaller name horror film compared to like Final Destination. But what did you think of this one? Was this worth seeing while it's in theaters, waiting for streaming, skipping? What did you think?
Absolutely. So Clown in a Cornfield is an adaptation of a book, or I guess a book series by Adam Cesare, who is very popular in the kind of like the horror / young adult horror kind of circles. In fact, Clown in a Cornfield was a Bram Stoker Award winning book that he wrote. This has been adapted by the production team that gave us Smile and director Eli Craig, who gave us Tucker and Dale versus Evil. It's a turn into a film that is described as, on IMDb, about a fading Midwestern town in which Frendo the Clown, a symbol of bygone success, reemerges as a terrifying scourge. It's listed as sort of this combination of like slasher / teen horror, dark comedy, and it's about this doctor and his teenage daughter who moved to this sort of middle of nowhere town. She meets some new friends, and then they start to become terrorized by this Frendo the Clown who's slashing at them. This is a very down the middle slasher film. There are things that I enjoyed about this film. There's things that I wish it had done more of. It's interesting to talk about it actually in context of what we just talked about with Final Destination, because I think one of its downfalls is I wanted some of the kills to be more creative or more fun or more over the top. Like, this type of film works best when it gets wacky. Case in point, Tucker and Dale versus Evil, which I still hold as one of my absolute favorite like horror comedy films, directed by the same director. But other than that, you know, like the teen horror stuff, you know, you kind of, you get what's on the label here in terms of like they're escaping from slashers, they get killed and picked off one by one and different things in the town. What does save this film is the thing we can't talk about right now. It does do one creative thing at about the halfway point of this film that I don't know is enough to like set it over the top. Case in point, I would still recommend Final Destination over this film. But it does do one thing that I think was still interesting enough that I'm glad that I watched it. And I'm glad I had the experience with it, because the reveal that it gave me was something that was fun and set up the rest of the film for a little bit more fun than I thought I was going to have. It was nice seeing Kevin Durand in this, Will Sasso, the teen cast in this. They're fine. You know, I don't think there was any like big standouts, but I don't think anyone like dropped the ball with it. I don't think there's any, you know, issues or, you know, standouts there. Again, this is a right down the middle slasher film. If you are wanting more slashers, check it out. I think it's on Shudder or will be available on Shudder soon. I believe they picked it up. But if your time is limited and you can only see one, I would lean you towards Final Destination instead.
All right. Well, thank you so much for weighing in. Jim, Clowns and Cornfields, how did they land for you?
Yeah, I didn't know what to expect with this movie. Will, you had mentioned it, that you had seen it at South by, and I think you had, you know, I think you had enjoyed it for the most part. And we didn't get a chance to see it on our schedule. So I'm like, okay, I wonder if we'll ever get a chance to see this on streaming or Shudder, you know, whatever. But we were surprised to see it like come out with a theatrical release. I think I was.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool, you know, a theatrical release that wasn't like right around Halloween, you know. Like it's like the beginning of summer. It's kind of a weird placement for this kind of film, which I don't know if it helped it or hurt it, but look, in the end, I had a pretty good time with this film. It was, like you said, it was pretty straight up slasher kind of film, a little bit of dark comedy. I mean, will the film industry just stop fucking around and give Kevin Durand his Elon Musk takedown movie starring role? Because like the dude looks like Elon Musk. Like every time I see the guy, I'm like, he is dollar store Elon Musk, and they need to put him in a movie of a takedown of Musk immediately. Anyway, that's going to happen. Mark my words. I like to see him in this. Will Sasso is always, you know, eye candy to see in movies, as well as Jean-Jacques Javier played Otis. Like I think he was like the liquor store or convenience store clerk guy in the town. He's pretty woofy, actually. So, I mean, I like that. I think there's something else that happens in this movie. Will, I don't know if you and I are going to talk about the same thing, but maybe we will. We'll mention it in spoilers when we get there, because it is a spoiler. But yeah, I had a fun enough time with this movie. I would recommend it. if you can get to see it in the theaters. I don't even know if it's still there right now, but with big like Mission Impossible coming out, some smaller movies do get pushed out. But catch it on Shudder or look for it on streaming, because I think it's a fun movie. It's a popcorn night movie. I think it's worth the time.
All right, Jim, thank you as well for your thoughts. Before I get into mine, a couple of comments from the live chat. Eddie says, "This is awesome, guys." Eddie, so glad you're enjoying the show. Good to see you. And George says, "Hey, cutie bears. Always nice to see you guys. Hugs and smooches." Right back at you, handsome.
Mwah.
Well, for myself, Clown in a Cornfield definitely was the lesser film between this one and Bloodlines. Not that we pitted them together in a competition or anything, but Will, to your point earlier, like if I had to choose one horror movie before I go see, Lilo and Stitch or Mission Impossible, it'd probably be Final Destination. But this still did some fun and clever things. I don't know. Like, I have always been afraid of clowns, and I think I trace that back, obviously, to Pennywise from It, the miniseries, that aired, is that early 90s, late 80s, both, something like that. But even before Pennywise, what was the old clown that was on TV? Was it Bozo the Clown? But he was like a sad, grumpy clown or something.
What? Bozo was a regular kids show clown.
Okay,
is that what you're talking about?
Maybe it was a kids show, but I thought I remembered him being like grumpy and really scary.
No, he was pretty upbeat, just trying to show the kid. Maybe you're thinking of a different one, though. Yeah,
maybe it's possible.
Here's the thing: clowns have exaggerated facial expressions and do stuff like that. So, to Brad's point, it doesn't have to be a implicitly scary clown to scare children. Like, that's something that's gone back for a while. Yeah. I think maybe he was just like playing angry in a scene or something. I don't know. But in any event, watching this film, I'm like, oh, great. Here we go. The clown thing again. I feel like it's been done to death, but actually this did a lot of fun things with clowns in this film. Being from a rural Midwestern area myself, the shit that people do to like entertain themselves, or the dark underbelly of awful things that probably happen in these places is believable. So we'll talk more in spoilers, but there's kind of some bigger things at play, and they were kind of fun to play with. So I'm glad this film was more than just what it seems on paper or in the trailer. I appreciate that it brought some cleverness and a little bit of a new spin on an old chestnut, if you will. Absolutely. And yeah, to your point, Brad, going back to scary clowns, I mean, we had Poltergeist with the clown under the bed came out before it, so that probably played into it
too.
John Wayne Gacy making kills in the 60s, and then even like the classic like 1920s, 1930s, like hobo and tramp style clowns, which were more they weren't designed to be scary, but they had like sad faces or like kind of the Emmett Kelly style. Like there's a lot of like there's a lot of like stuff that like clowns, especially for a kid who's used to seeing, you're still learning emotions and you're looking at human faces and going like, my mom is happy, my dad is sad. These are the things that you learn from. And then you see this weird exaggerated face that just is doing something very different. Yeah, I get these primal fears.
Yeah, because suddenly you're like, my aunt is manic. Like, what's happening right now? Why is she wearing all this makeup? In any event, spoilers. Are we ready just to make that jump? We good?
Yeah,
I think so.
Go.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, listen to spoilers for Clown in a Cornfield at your own peril. I'll throw the ticker up on the screen if you're watching the recording or the live stream. That is your warning. Otherwise, again, we just announced it audibly. So protect yourself before you wreck yourself. Where do you want to start with spoilers on this one?
The spoiler, I think, which is the reveal kind of partway through this film, right? There is a moment all through the first part of the film. The kids are being chased by a friendo the clown. And then there's a moment where Friendo comes out of the cornfield at this like kind of barn rave party thing that they're at. And then another Friendo comes out, and then another Friendo, and then just a shit ton of Friendos come out. And you're like, what the hell is going on here? And you realize that, you know, what's really happening in this film is the sort of like the elder statespeople of the town are eliminating the bad influences, sort of, you know, which they consider to be these teens, through the guise of Friendo the Clown or Friendos the Clowns. That was the piece that I thought was like creative and inventive and did something not necessarily that I haven't seen before. It's basically the premise of Hot Fuzz, if you go back and watch that, but which isn't a horror movie, it's action. But it still, it added something because at this, you know, it took it from a straight down the middle slasher into something different at that turn when you see everyone coming out of the cornfield. I liked that. And it really did set up the rest of the film in a way that kept some momentum, kept some propulsion in a way that sometimes these films don't have.
Agreed. Absolutely.
Sorry,
Jim. I couldn't figure out if you were yawning or sneezing or about to say something. I didn't want to.
Both.
Did you have something you were going to jump into?
Yeah, I mean, you guys mentioned, you know, the town's parents or elder statesmen trying to get rid of the bad influences in the town. So it's kind of like Footloose with clowns that kill.
Sure.
I guess. No, it's not. It's totally different, but it kind of has that same theme. I wanted to talk a little bit more about how you guys thought the film handled the other big twist reveal in this movie, in that two of the characters were an LGBT, a budding LGBT relationship. I thought that was a really cool inclusion in this movie for some representation. I thought it was handled pretty well. You know, you know, you have it's kind of what's the word I'm looking for? He's kind of a characteristic. He's like the brooding kid, the weird kid that people don't like. We see him at the beginning of the movie.
Like
not
big,
exactly
burly,
a
scary kid.
Yeah, not exactly a caricature, but kind of like the loner. And then you find out that, hey, he's actually a gay kid, which is probably the reason why he's been kind of off to the sideline. As you know, in high school that can happen, or at least it used to happen. I don't know about today, but and he and the most hot kid in the school have a little budding gay relationship. So I thought that was kind of charming for me, at least. I thought it was handled well. Yeah,
I like that a lot too, because you know we've seen like other queer kids in horror movies, and usually it's like, oh, they're like the second couple to die, you know what I mean? And this time it was like, no, like they're part of like the final people, you know. We're in spoilers. That was really cool.
Final
kind of
gays.
fun and empowering, and final queers, you know, whatever you want to call it. You know, it's really good. It's really good to see that. And honestly, like it's not even that the movie like made a huge deal about them being gay. They just or queer. They just ended up being, right. And so I don't know if the characters were gay or pan or bi or whatever, but whatever flavor of that, it was just so cool to see that just like instantly they had been a couple, right? They were doing their thing and they got to survive till the end. Which was
it wasn't played for a punchline, which I think sometimes happens. You know, and there's a lot of different queer characters that you can see in horror, and it's all valid, you know, like whether it be camp, whether it be, you know, flamboyant, whether it be sort of playing against expectations, you know, as long as we have representation and we have kind of like a wide brush of representation. This was a good set of representation. These characters were, as far as the characters within this type of film are allowed, fleshed out and three-dimensional. And I really appreciated that, you know, the heroine of this, who had a crush on one of the guys before finding out, like, oh no, like, you know, I'm the third wheel in the final outcome. It wasn't played for just like scorn or laughs or anything like that either. Like she, by the end of the film, is their number one ally, which is also cool.
Completely agree. Hey, real quick before we get any further, speaking of number one allies, one of our number one allies, one of the first people who ever listened to our show and commented, y'all, the very handsome and sexy Cisco Salgado is here and says
Hey,
hello to
Cisco.
my hairy husky, huggable homos, hugs and kisses with that cute little adorable kissy face. Right back at you,
Mwah, mwah,
sexy.
mwah, mwah. Hey, Cisco.
Hey, Cisco. Thanks
All
for
right.
coming on. Always a pleasure.
We do love when you come on, Cisco. Absolutely. It's always fun for me. I mean, us. I mean, okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to what we were talking about. Yeah. So I really appreciated too. I think with a lot of these like scary horror slash or whatever films, there's usually like a final girl, right? Or a final person, whatever you want to call it. Sometimes these movies, I don't know, it's just so predictable, like watching people fall one by one by one by one. And while
Yeah.
obviously we lost a lot of people kind of quickly in a hurry with some kind of pseudo clever kills, we got down to the final three, and I'm just like, shit, which one is next? Like, who's it going to be? I don't want to lose any of them. Like, this sucks. And sure enough, they all got to make it to the end, which I thought was kind of a fun subversion. But it just kept me super anxious through like the whole final act of the film. And I say that Final Destination was like the superior film. Like that's the one I would pick. But I think Clown in a Cornfield gave me more anxiety, right? Because like growing up in farm country, I could see someone putting on a fucking clown mask and like chainsawing people up, as opposed to like death moving a penny that like triggers a crack that like it's a lot more realistic.
And if you look, this is one of those, in these movies, sometimes we're all like, okay, there's a slasher. He's dressed up as Friendo the Clown, or, they're dressed up as Friendo the Clown. Which person is it? Like, which character that they've revealed is it? Well, you had a pretty good chance of guessing who it was because it was pretty much everybody except for
It was
the kid.
everybody.
It was everybody. So if you guessed the teacher, if you guessed the shitty dad or whatever, if you guessed Will Sasso, you were right. Yeah.
But here's my question. Oh, go ahead, Will.
I was just going to say, like, one thing that this has kind of inspired me to do, and unfortunately, my to read list is pretty long right now. I've still got another 2 books in a 7-book series I'm reading now, and then another book after that lined up. But I do kind of want to check out some of Adam Cesar's books. I just looked up his list of things. There's actually 4 Clown in a Cornfield movies or books.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah. So that's pretty interesting. Just that he has, I guess, 3 that are out and 1 that's coming out, I guess.
I wonder if that actually plays a role in the question I was about to ask, because at the end of this movie, doesn't Timu Elon Musk make it out? Like that, doesn't he like escape and get away?
It appears that he may have gotten away.
So maybe he's going to come back with more clowns and even more Cornfieldier. I don't know. Like,
and more
muskier. That character.
Muskier. Like I'm just reading the synopsis for the second book. It's Quinn, the lead of this. She's off at college, and all of a sudden, Friendo is back. Yeah.
Could be. We'll have to see. In any event,
a killer on a college campus. Now that is something we haven't seen.
Yeah.
Clown in a college campus.
Yeah. It's called Clown in a Cornfield 2, Friendo Lives.
Oh, okay. Well, whatever. There better be a cornfield. That's all I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, goodness. All right. Well, any final thoughts on the adventures of Friendos the Clowns?
Nope. Not from me.
No, I think we hit this one.
All right. Very cool. Well, then we're going to go ahead and wrap up our movie discussions. I will remove the spoiler ticker. We are officially past movie talk, and we are into end of the episode talk. We've got a busy few weeks coming up. Just heads up, we're going to be back with you, schedule willing, next week for Lilo and Stitch and Mission Impossible. Week after that will be Karate Kid Legends. And then we're going to take a break for a few weeks. Jib and I are going to Hawaii. Will, you've got some travel coming up as well. And then we'll be back with Megan 2.0, which I am fucking ecstatic for.
You are very excited for that movie.
I really am.
Yeah.
I've probably watched that SNL skit like 20 times at this point.
Yeah.
It brings me so much joy. I've even like practiced doing the Megan pose, just, you know, in the mirror.
And when the trailer comes on in the movies, he practically stands up and like tries to dance along with her. So,
I do. I'm just like,
yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. You should see it. Anyway, between now and our next recording, though, let's let folks know how they can touch base with us if they would like to do so. Jim, where are you online that people can find and chat with you that you'd like to share?
Well, if you want to connect with me on a movie-related basis, check me out on Letterboxd. That is a website and an app that if you haven't been on yet, you probably should check it out because you can rate movies on there, see other people's ratings, reviews. I am at JJP Out West, all one word. And then for just general stuff, if you want to get in touch with me, probably the best way is to look me up on Facebook under my name, Jim Pugliafico.
All right. Thank you so much, babe. Will, how about you? Where can people track you down in a consensual way?
Absolutely. So I do take walks near cornfields at night. So if you want to stalk now, there's two places you can really look for me. Facebook, social media there. Just look for William Lindis. That's kind of the primary platform I use for just sort of general posting about things. And of course, yeah, Letterboxd. I'm the movie bear there. I review and list a bunch of things there as well. So if you are a movie fan, get on Letterboxd. Come join us. It's a lot of fun.
Join us.
One of us, Google Gobble.
Like these other two fellas, you can find me in both places as well. I'm on Letterboxd at iBradPro. I am also on Facebook as Bradley Harris, no longer Brad Harris, because people are like, whenever I put your name in, I see a Confederate flag, and that's awful. And I'm like, well, that's not me, but here is an easier way to find me. So feel free to look me up, say hello, let's chat movies. We will be back with you all again, schedule willing, next week for Lilo and Stitch and Mission Impossible. In the meantime, see some fun movies. Summer blockbuster season is just starting up and totally here for it. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.